What's up, family? Thank y'all so much for tuning in today. So I want to start this video off by saying there is no situation that is too dead for God. There is absolutely nothing that is impossible for him. So today we are going to talk about Lazarus, the death of Lazarus and the resurrection, Jesus bringing him back to life. All right. So we're going to go right out of John. So we're in John chapter 11. And I don't have a bunch of notes today. I'm just going to kind of go off the cuff because I was listening to a sermon by Noel Jones and it just really transformed my whole view of this story. So I'm going to share some of that and give you some takeaways towards the end. All right. So I'm going to read out of this again, chapter 11. We are going to go to verse 38. So let me just give you some context before this. Jesus finds out that Lazarus is dead. And we see here in verse 35 that it says that Jesus wept, right? And this is really important for us to know. We know that he loves Lazarus. We know that emotionally this is crushing him. This hurts him. Like Jesus feels this, not just in his spirit, but in his body. And so we're going to go in chapter 38, verse 38. Then Jesus, again, groaning in himself, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone lay against it. Jesus said, "Take away the stone." Martha, the sister of him who was dead, said to him, "Lord, by this time there is a stench, for he has been dead for 4 days." Jesus said to her, "Did I not say to you that if you would believe, you would see the glory of God?" Then they took away the stone from the place where the dead man was lying. And Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me. And I know you will always hear me. But because of the people who are standing by, I said this, that they may believe that you sent me." Now when he had said these things, he cried with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come forth." And he who had died came out, bound hand and foot with grave clothes, and his face was wrapped with a cloth. Jesus said to them, "Loose him and let them go." So let me share something that I heard T.D. Jakes say, because he was speaking on this as well. And many of us have had situations that have died, right? That we have given up hope. So when Martha comes to Jesus, she says to him, "If you would have been here, my brother would not have died." So she's blaming Jesus. And not only is she blaming him, she's basically saying he's dead and it's your fault. There's nothing that can be done at this point. So T.D. Jakes said, think about the situations in your life that you feel are impossible, and God wants you to go back. He said, "Take me to the spot in your life where you stopped believing, where you lost your hope, where you lost your faith, where you gave up because you felt like it was impossible." God wants you to go back there. Right? And so we see this here as he goes back to the tomb. He says, "Take me to the place where you've laid him down." Right? And one of the things that I want you to know, and Noel Jones spoke about this, he said, God will create a situation for revelation. Now remember, Dr. DeHarius talks about context. So before we get to Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead, if you read prior scriptures prior to that, you will see that God senses, or Jesus senses, that there is a lack of faith. Jesus senses this is an opportunity because he's like, there's a part of me that you still don't recognize, that you still don't really believe in. So I'm going to create a situation. You think Jesus couldn't have healed Lazarus from where he was at? He waited 4 days after he found out that Lazarus was dead. Right? He did that intentionally to show Martha, to show Mary, to show everybody else around who said this is absolutely impossible. Everything is about God's glory. So he will create a situation for revelation so that you can see another aspect of God. And I mentioned this in a YouTube short. There are so many layers to God. We have Jehovah Jireh. We have Jehovah Rapha. We have Jehovah Nisi. All these aspects of God. The Lord our shepherd. The Lord our healer. The Lord our provider. So you may feel like, well, I really know God because God provided for me. But you've never been through a circumstance where he had to direct you or to give you discernment or protect you. Or maybe you haven't gone through something where you needed a healing or someone in your family needed a healing. So many times God will create those situations so that we can learn another aspect of who he is. He will reveal something to us in that, right? So I want you to recognize that and understand that. And then again, once God decides to bring you out, right, of that situation, because it's all about your faith. It's all about what you believe, because God has said that several times. Do you believe that I can do this? I don't care what other people believe. I don't care if they believe or they don't believe or they doubt. He's asking you, what do you believe? Right? Because your blessings are according to your faith, not anyone else's. So I want to encourage you, when you feel discouraged, when you feel down, when you feel like giving up, when you feel like you're losing all hope, hold on to your faith. I don't care if you got to hold on with your pinky. Okay? Do not let go of that. Because once we let go of that, we are lost. Once we let go of that, we have let go of our revelation. Because there's something that God wants to do in our life. And again, it has to be about him. Always about him. And I'll wrap up with this. As he calls Lazarus and says, come out, come forth. Lazarus doesn't come out of the tomb like he did before he died. That's not how he came out, right? He came out with his hands tied together, bound. He came out with the bandages wrapped around his body, wrapped around his face, right? He probably came out with that pale skin or whatever it looked like before. But God, when he gets ready to call you out, he wants to call you out exactly how you are right now. And he will restore you. He will restore you after 4 days. I don't care if your situation has been 4 days, 4 weeks, 4 months, 4 years. When God gets ready to bless you, when he gets ready to turn it around, he can do it suddenly, right? He can do it exceedingly above what anybody else can do or what anybody else can expect. But he wants you to know who he is and recognize his power. That's what it's really all about. So I just want to encourage you that if you feel like, because some of these things that come against us is, you know, it's God's doing, right? And then some of it is the enemy, and God has allowed the enemy, like how he allowed the enemy to work on Job. He will allow certain things, right? But regardless of who it is, God is a redeemer. So if the enemy took something from you, you can tell the enemy, you have to give me back what it is that you took from me. And I love when Noel Jones talks about Lazarus, because he said, you know, when this man is in this tomb for 4 days, his skin starts to rot. Maggots start to, you know, eat at his skin. And then the beetles start to eat the maggots, and the spiders start to eat the beetles. And he said the spiders had to give back what the beetles took, and the beetles had to give back what the spiders took, and the spiders had to give back what the maggots, and the maggots had to give back what they took. Everybody had to give back what they took from Lazarus when God called him out. He is saying, but behold, I am doing a new thing. So this situation that you're going through in your life is because God is preparing you for a revelation. He's preparing you for a blessing, right? Trust him. Trust him. Whether he turns it around today or tomorrow or next week, what I want you to do is look for God every single day. Look for God in yourself. Look for God in other people. Ask God to speak to you. Ask God to reveal things to you. Ask God to direct you. Ask God to use you. Surrender yourself to him every single day. And trust God. All right? No matter what. But you coming out. We are coming out by the glory of God. God bless you.